Teammates, happy Friday. Listen, I do LPDs all over the country. I'm usually doing them in front of people, but today I decided to do it for the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers that I have. But specifically for those folks in the Army, there's a woeful lack of understanding about this OER thing that we have. It's the most important document that you have in your military career. Not that you shouldn't be competent on other documents, but this OER is going to either get you promoted or have you very sad and depressed. So we're going to talk about two documents today. The first document here and it's just a guide. It talks about enumeration, it talks about percentages, it talks about who's average, who's good, and what you should have on your OER. The second document we're going to talk about right here is a Rater's philosophy. Every person who is a Rater or a senior Rater should have a Rater's philosophy according to 623-3. Now, that Rater's philosophy, and we'll put these things back up here a little later, tells you what standard you should have to get a most qualified OER, okay? A highly qualified OER, and of course not a below center mass. But listen, anytime somebody comes into my organization, I have a Rater's philosophy according to 623-3. That Rater philosophy, I lay it out to them plainly. If you are doing your job and you're a nice person and you bring donuts to the office and you're just a great guy or gal, you're definitely a highly qualified. You're definitely a highly qualified, okay? But if you want to be a most qualified, according to my Rater's philosophy, you should be able to think 2 levels up. You should be able to exercise leadership on initiative. You should be a great communicator. You should have an above average AFT now. Let me show you if we can get a snapshot of what most qualified looks like under my leadership. So most qualified shows you that you have to be an above average NCO or an officer. I have a saying, and I say it to all of my NCOs and to my officers. It's about business. It's not personal. So while I can go to lunch with you every day, I can hang out with you every day, we can clown every day, that has nothing really to do with the business that I'm in. You know, they call you, in a pejorative term, they call you gatekeepers. In a relative sense, in the positive term, I'm a gatekeeper. I'm a senior Rater and a Rater. So therefore, my job is to determine who goes forward to the next rank, at least for my time that I'm dealing with them. So I have a specific standard for what a most qualified officer or a non-commissioned officer is. Now let's get into some rating stuff. Now, as you can see here, I hope you can see it, you have the first block, enumeration, right? If you want to be a competent officer or non-commissioned officer, you should know that that commander or that senior Rater should be enumerating you, right? You should be number 1 out of 8, number 2 out of 8, number 3 out of 8, right? Some people try to be a little sneaky and put, top 30%. Well, if I'm sitting on a board and I see top 30%, I'm going to think to myself that senior Rater is saying a whole lot about that top 30%. However, if he rates you or he or she rates you as top 10%, well, they're saying that you are a top 10% NCO or officer is strong and is above average, right? I've gotten a top 10%. I wasn't happy about it because, all of us think we're top 1% or top 5%. I've gotten a top 10% and I wasn't happy about it, but it still says I was above average. And if you can see in the green block, the 2 green blocks are the best because they're top 5% and under And those say that you're superior, you're way above average. What is my point here? Your NCOER or your OER is the most important document in your career. You can say what you want, you can feel how you want, it's important. So therefore, you should have an intimate knowledge on how these OERs are written. They have specific knowledge in there. If somebody says to you on your OER that says that he should be a colonel yesterday, that's some nuanced language in there, and they might be throwing you a curveball. Now is better. Ahead of peers is better. It should have below the zone where merit base is better. Go to senior service college now. Be a division chaplain now. Be a battalion commander now. Ahead of peers. Sometimes the language that some folks are using, intentional or unintentional, is very nuanced language that I'll see on the board and I'll say, wow, I think they're sending us a message. So my point is, not only is your performance important, sometimes your attitude is important. I know you're not gonna like that, but it's a fact of life. And if you don't like fair, go to the fair, because your attitude matters. It's also telling me about your leadership style, your leadership production, and your leadership and how you're going to treat other people once you get to the next level. But we won't go into that. Maybe we'll do that a little later. But let me go back to this document. The two green blocks, take a gander. They're talking about enumeration. The second block green, talking about percentages. The third block, not bad, but it's also saying, hey, you on the cuffs of being above standard, but you ain't tight as you thought you are, right? I've gotten that. I wasn't happy about it again. And then, of course, once people start going below those 10% and hitting you at 20%, 25%, 30%, I'm not saying your career is over, but to me, you need to be understanding of what that means, right? Sometimes you can be open, the commander or the senior rater is open to a conversation. Sometimes they're not. That's their prerogative. But I should always encourage you guys to get counseling. This is why we're supposed to have raters philosophy, and all of us are busy, so that's not an excuse. So you bring your people in quarterly, let them know, hey, this is where I see you right now. I think you need to step up. Here's my criteria again for most qualified. I don't see you there right now. We can have that conversation. I think it's a leader's conversation. So listen, your career should be managed by you. I know you say, oh my God, my senior rater is this and my rater don't talk to me. It's your career. Believe it or not, we're managing and he's managing and she's managing her own career with their own senior raters and raters. So sometimes to me, you gotta push to ensure you get what you need. I'm gonna put this up here again. Just take a look at it. And I'll conclude with this, and we can do further talks on this, whether on the internet or you can give me a call. The OER is subjective. We know that. But if you're going to perform and ask for most qualified, you should know what that is. And if you can get a clear state of what that is, you have to do that to build your case for that most qualified. I hope and pray this helped. I hope it wasn't too rushed and too fast. They only give you 10 minutes, but we can hopefully try and do this again. Okay? Have a great day.